Welcome back to Son of Chelsea. Daniel Childs here. Now, I gave my thoughts, as I do pretty much every year, on the new Chelsea home shirt, and I liked last season's home shirt, but there have been many shirts in recent years, especially Nike ones in the Nike era, that haven't been as good. And I strongly feel and still feel, even after seeing it on the players for a few months, this season's home shirt is the worst Chelsea kit of my lifetime. And I think if you track it back years before I was even born, it is the worst Chelsea home shirt. I just don't understand the design thought behind it. The colours don't reference anything in the past. It's not a retro inspired kit that a lot of the times the marketing people like to spice up, even though that link sometimes is a little bit obscure and a little bit hard to find. Last season's kit, of course, done really well because it was paying homage to a very specific Chelsea home shirt, and I think that's why a lot of people wanted to rush out and get it. But apparently, Nike are unhappy, shirt sales are down, and they're linking it to the lack of a sponsorship, which has still not been secured by the Chelsea ownership. So let's delve into the piece by Matt Hughes for City AM, and it kind of breaks down what has happened, why it is where it is in Chelsea's current arrangement with sponsors and also with Nike. So apparently the US sportswear giant is convinced that the lack of a sponsor cost its shirt sales in the summer, with many fans waiting to see if Chelsea would land a late deal, as they did last year when a one-year contract with Infinite Athlete was agreed in late September. Of course, we're nearly in November. A new sponsorship has not materialised. Sources with knowledge of the process told City AM that Chelsea were initially looking for around £60 million per year with a new sponsor, but with 2 months of the season having elapsed, would accept around half that figure for the rest of the campaign. Chelsea have held talks with Riyadh Air without reaching an agreement, with the club's absence from the Champions League for a second successive season thought to be a major factor in the depressing of the value of the deal. Chelsea are halfway through a 15-year kit contract with Nike, which is not thought to be in jeopardy, but sluggish sales at the start of this season have caused concerns. Nike declined to comment. So, sure, the sponsorship and the lack of sponsorship we've talked about before. I don't think from a commercial point of view it's a great look. I've criticised the club about this, and I think it is a fair thing to criticise the club about, especially if you're an ownership that has very publicly talked about your strength in commercial, in your strength in attracting sponsorship, of exploiting Chelsea for greater sponsorships. When you fail to secure it, you are rightly, I think, criticised and asked awkward questions of why, for a group that claim they are so smart on this, have been unable to do it. That can be true, with me also having absolutely no sympathy for Nike for a variety of reasons. The first one is, obviously, it's not a well-designed shirt, at least in my opinion, and I think with others as well, anecdotally, that I've heard. And the idea that a lack of sponsor is limiting people's ability or kind of desire to go out and buy the new shirt. I think there's one other reason that we have to look at, which is just the reality of being a supporter of one of these big clubs. But I don't think that's that accurate, because one of the reasons that the shirt behind me here, the shirt for 23-24, was successful was the novelty of actually not having a sponsor on the front of the shirt. That is something that is quite unique in a game that is littered with sponsorships, and we now see, sleeve sponsorships. There's going to be sponsorships all around football, and it's very much been indoctrinated, right? It's very hard to go to a football stadium to experience anything around football, even in media, without having sponsors flood your eyes and ears and kind of senses. So that was something that I think very much hit home with a lot of fans, that they wanted to at least grab that shirt, get it before a new sponsor came on. Of course, people do own sponsors, the Infinite Athlete ones, home and away for the rest of the season. And I understand there is kind of the tradition of having a sponsor on the front of the shirt, and people, of course, may like that. But there's no numbers being presented here that really solidify that high percentage was the reason why. I think it's a combination of things. I think maybe the mood around the club not being that good, the fact that these shirts in recent years have seemed to take a long time to actually get released, when a lot of other clubs release their kits usually in kind of Premier League standard at the end of the previous season. This one wasn't released until the summer, so that may have hurt sales. On top of that, the style of it, the design of it is terrible in my opinion. It doesn't really scream of a shirt that at the very least looks unique enough or is special enough for fans to want to rush out and buy it. I always reference the 1970 FA Cup anniversary kit, which was a smash hit with fans. I mean, it literally sold out so quickly within the space of a couple of weeks, and then it became impossible to get it. And I think the reason why was the novelty of that shirt. I think if you design shirts that connect to people, and that doesn't always mean everything every single year has to talk about the past, if you can make a very good and high quality home shirt that speaks to a number of generations and maybe adds a new touch to something, because I am a believer in kind of, with the home shirt, you don't mess about too much, and that's part of the reason I don't like the current home shirt. People will go out and buy it. But there also is another part of this that Nike has to hold responsibility for, and I think just generally the game has to hold responsibility for, is the insane price of shirts in the modern age, especially for Premier League clubs, especially for those who support the biggest Premier League clubs. And I just quickly looked at the price of the Chelsea home shirt this year. Now, in recent years, it has become a tradition that clubs release two styles of home shirts. There's what they call the stadium shirt, which is kind of your traditional, again, the one behind me here, kind of a more breathable, relaxed fabric, then, and that's kind of that's priced a little bit cheaper. But then they also released a dry fit. I think Adidas call it maybe Climber Court or something. Basically, it's the player shirt. It's the shirt that's a lot tighter, made for athletes, that a lot of people, of course, are not going to wear that regularly, is made for the players. That is a lot more expensive. And if you add customization onto that shirt, it's even more expensive. It is at a starting base over £100 already. That's not even getting sleeves like Premier League badges or a customized name on the back. Not a non-starter really. It's already very expensive. So I found this piece from Sport Cow, who only released this piece at the start of this season, and it was about the rising cost of Premier League fandom as shirt and ticket prices continue to soar. And it looks at the fact that average shirt prices across the 20 teams this season are £73, $95, while season tickets are estimated to cost over £1,000. And this looks at all the Premier League and also the average cost stretching back to the start of the Premier League in 1992. Two areas they explain where fans are directly feeling the financial implications are replica shirts and ticket sales. In the formative years, 92 Premier League club shirts were priced at around £30. Prices across the 20 teams for this season range between £58 and £85, with the most common price at £80. Tottenham have priced themselves at the very top of the market, with Chelsea the only other team to price above £80. Chelsea's price for the stadium shirt this year, at least looking at the Nike website, is £84.99, which is ridiculously high. There is apparently a £27 discrepancy between their prices and the lowest in the league, which is Wolves, and then they do a graph here that talks about the cost of standard adult 24-25 shirts, and you can see here Tottenham, Chelsea, Arsenal, Aston Villa, Fulham, Liverpool, Man City and Man United and Newcastle United are all at least over $100, £80, and then it just goes £75 where Everton, Forest, West Ham are, and it goes all the way down to Wolves at £58. So generally this has been something that has been a problem across the Premier League for a long period of time. So when you combine the fact that the shirt, okay, I'll grant you, doesn't have a sponsor and maybe that's impacting some people, isn't a great design shirt, is a shirt that has maybe turned people off at a time when fans were feeling a little bit disconnected to the club, plus the reality in a cost of living crisis across the world, but especially in the UK, people cannot just fork out easily 80 quid. And when you are releasing 3 new shirts a year, plus the idea that Chelsea may also have some other new kind of special kits that are coming out soon in the new year, especially, I know Footy Headlines has reported that are probably going to cost a similar amount for fans. Why can you be surprised with all of those reasons that fans are not forking out for your new shirt, which I think is pretty terribly designed? I think this is a major problem, and I'm not going to, the club are responsible, but in the reason Nike are kind of allegedly giving that they're responsible for this failure, I completely don't buy it. You can put a sponsor on that shirt and the shirt fundamentally is still a very poorly designed one, and on top of that it's still probably going to cost you 80 quid. I can't believe that a sponsor would have radically decreased the price, because as we see, the averages have only gone up in recent years. So on this, I want to hear your thoughts, because maybe if you live abroad, what is kind of your experience buying home shirts? Have you gone out and bought the new home shirt? Are you one of those that were waiting to see a sponsor? Is that kind of halted your ability to go and buy a shirt? Or is that something that hasn't impacted you? Do you know anecdotally if Chelsea fans that friends, family, are not going to buy the shirt this year? And I just think generally, this kind of represents that Nike have not been a great partner for Chelsea. I don't think they have succeeded in being anywhere close to the level that Adidas were. And especially when I look at, say, Adidas, they're doing a lot of great retro kits right now. They're going through a phase of retro designs again, where the classic Adidas logo is coming back out. They're kind of paying homage to the classics of clubs, and I'm seeing how successful that is, and how fans, especially Arsenal in recent years, Man United, other big English clubs, are thriving off of that. And then Chelsea fans look back at the Adidas era, which of course on the pitch was very successful, but also created some of the best Chelsea kits. It's understandable why fans are looking at Nike and going, well, where is our level of kit like that? Very few in the Nike era have been anywhere close to the best of Adidas. So I wanted to make that show today, as I say, a little bit evergreen, a little bit different, but I think it's a story that just annoys me, because I prefer that Nike, with the resources they have, would put a lot more care and effort, and also, of course, in consultation with the club, and also the prices being astronomical and ludicrous and getting worse every year, and how that's going to eventually has already probably priced out a number of fans, is a real problem. It needs to be talked about, and I don't think we should just take Nike's spin on this as gospel.